form of that community. And I feel like, I've learned a lot, and I'm very thankful to Dan and her family for bringing me into this community. And this Too Smart to Be Trendy project that we premiered just recently was, I had a lot of creative control in the process of character design and animation stuff. And I felt like this is definitely a good time in all our lives. And thank you guys for having me.
Great, thanks so much guys for introducing yourself. We're so glad that you could all join us today here. So the next question we have will go down the line. Can you tell us a little bit about your art and or animation and your passion for it, the things that you're enthusiastic about art and animation?
So a lot of my art was based off of what kind of inspires me in my daily life. When I was a young person or a child, I watched a lot of cartoons. I read a lot of different books with a lot of graphics in them. I really liked animals, and I just, all that really, I also was really into gaming too. So I really got inspired by most of the stuff that I just saw in the world and what I experienced. And that generated characters. The things I painted were like, things from mythology, things from my imagination, and all sorts of other different things. And as I grew older and I developed my art and created more, I decided that I wanted to tell stories. I found that I was a very good storyteller. Both my parents are writers, and they both got masters in writing. And I've always had a natural knack for telling stories and exploring that kind of world, the stories of fiction and real life. And that motivated me to what is now currently on my least popular YouTube channel, which is the App Tema webcomic. So it's about a little alien girl who goes on all sorts of goofy and shenanigans adventures and does basically slapstick comedy. It's very based off of like the humor of like Looney Tunes back in the day from Warner Brothers, like Bugs Bunny, Daffy Duck, all those guys. And that was a big part in what that comic became. And I mean, I actually just started that comic this year. Earlier this year, I started making episodes. I think there's about 17 episodes out right now. It's on TikTok and it's on YouTube. And then my other paintings and drawings are on my website, which is austinjohnjones.com, aka Austin John Jones Art. And that's just kind of what inspired me, was my life, my family, my friends, and the community I fostered from all of that. That motivated me to make my own.
All right, and my art, which is not necessarily art, because I am not an artist. I have a passion for comics and cartoons and a lot of things and writing, but the field of working in comics was kind of an accidental inspiration to me, because I really, I was a kid that went through entirely through high school and through college without any real career goals, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do. We were just kind of floating through life aimlessly, as many people often do. It happens to a lot of us. But the first kind of career I thought that would be cool was, like I discovered about cartoon voice acting during the 2002 Comic-Con. Had a lot of cool voice actors who gave me some tips. I tried to do that for myself for a year after college, but ultimately, going through the audition process and rejections and that sort of thing, I was geez, how do you make a career in this? So I went back to college at that time and just floated, just getting a degree in whatever. And it was kind of a chance happening at Meltdown Comics in 2009 when I attended a lecture there that was spoken by the writer / editor Len Wein, who you might know as a co-creator of Wolverine and co-creator of Swamp Thing, longtime writer of the Incredible Hulk throughout the 1980s. But the Watchmen film adaptation was coming out, and he talked about editing the script for Watchmen back in the 80s, and I was like, this sounds like the coolest job in the world. All of a sudden, a comic editor, my perception of it was just a glorified spell checker, but you're actually getting input to the writers. You're getting revisions to the artwork, and you're actually helping to shape the story. So it's more like being in the director's chair than just being a spell checker. So I talked with Len and learn some tips. He said, learn everything you can about comics. Okay, geez, I thought I had known enough already, but of course I had a lot to learn. And I still finished college, I still worked with it, but I wanted to find a way to get myself into comics. I'm like, okay, cool, I got a college degree now. Local comic publishers are gonna want me now. Okay, so try Wildstone, they didn't want me. IDW, they didn't want me. So, you know what, I had to get a job working as a chauffeur to get myself going through. So that's where we get a vehicular cleanliness meme on the spectrum from, because I can't operate with a dirty car, it just doesn't work. But along the way, I found a local small press publisher called Semantic Publishing, and I actually said, hey, I want to be an editor with you guys, but nobody wants to be an editor. That's the thing for washed up writers. I want to do it. And so I would help to recruit writers and help revise stories, and I did that for 2 years before the company folded. And ultimately, just went back to driving clientele, my chauffeur thing, until I discovered the Little Fish comic book studio, which was done here in San Diego, done by Alonzo Nunez, who was an art education studio to teach students about comic art. And I said, I don't know how I can help, but let me help. And so I could help bring in a student body, help revive them. And along the way, I still kept going with my day jobs, and I still would just take any avenue to help out in comics. And I joined the organization San Diego Comic Fest, their annual event, as a volunteer, and they thought it was so helpful that they appointed me as the chairman of the event in 2017. That really made sense. And then I worked up my way from being a chauffeur to working and writing World War II articles, and then working in video games until eventually I got up to the point where I am right now, working in Upper Deck Entertainment, overseeing trading card projects for Marvel Comics, now DC Comics, and I've done like Looney Tunes characters, and the fact that they trust me with these iconic characters, and that I'm a custodian of folklore, and that I can oversee these things and bring in talent to get through. And I said, when I make it, and it wasn't an if I make it, it's when I make it, I will do my part to help out everyone, because it's not a linear path to working in comics or these creative fields. It's incredibly difficult, because you're still going to hustle by doing a day job. You still have to work on your art. It's tireless, it's restless, it's thankless, and you don't get paid for it. But I said, anytime I can do that, I would help, and that is my art.
Well, the moral of the lesson is variety, that it's always good to have variety, the spice of life. Well, now I would like to talk to you about these two aspects about the art inspiration. So the first side I will talk about is the inspiration side of what inspired me to be the person I am today, and the history and the chronological order of how art really inspired me. For me, I've been inspired. Cartoons have been my big inspiration. What's so great about cartoons is that cartoons is not just about diving into the world of about their imagination. It can be a wonderful school of emotions, teaching me the importance about how to be happy, how to be sad, how to be mad. And growing up, these became a vital tool to help me with my communication. One of the cartoons I really loved growing up, as Jim mentioned, Pokemon is one of my big inspirations. Alongside with some other Kids WB shows I grew up watching, such as the Powerpuff Girls was on Kids WB. It's a Cartoon Network show. And Animaniacs was also one of my favorites, and Shaolin Showdown. They were my inspirations, alongside with Gorillas. And I even loved video games at the time. Growing up, I used to play a lot of Super Mario, used to play Kirby, Pokemon, WarioWare. Those were some of my several inspirations for my early animation. Also, I forgot to mention Gorillas as well as one of my favorite bands, virtual bands. Now to the history aspect of how animation inspired me to be who I am today. When I was a little kid, one of my first animation practices I used to do was stop motion animation. I used to take pictures of my plush toys, like around four-ish or five-ish. Used to take a picture, move them, take another picture, move them, and then I just repeat the process until I asked my parents to start printing out the pictures, and I would flip them like a little flip book. Then, during my elementary school years, I used to staple together these little picture books, and what I do is I just what I like to do is I just tell stories. And one day when I visited Sandy's workplace at the time when she was a travel agent, she was like, wow, these are lovely books. I really like these books idea. Well, my mom and dad at the time were not really focused on my passions at all. They were just focused and busy at the time. And even though I did not know that I have this powerful, unusual diagnosis called autism at that time, so by the time when I moved in to live with my aunt and uncle at around 11 years old, my aunt told me all these those magical gifts of doing picture books alongside with these little fun animations I did on MS Paint, Photoshop, and PowerPoint presentation, she told me that I have the word, autism. And I was like, what? And I felt like, oh my gosh, I just thought it was a disease. Should I be cured or something like that? But she just told me, it's just who you are, like having brown hair or hazel eyes. And the gifts that you do is what makes you so special. And Sadie and Patrick were the ones who showed me the types and ropes of what it's like running an animation company, because at the time, I noticed that because of my passion, because I wanted to do more than just writing picture books or anything. And drawing picture books, I wanted to do animation. And I've been practicing animations at the time, and after Sandy and Patrick noticed that my talents and abilities, they gave me the help on how to start my own animation company. I was also inspired by the creator of Pokemon, Satoshi Kariji, the creator of Pokemon, who I thought was neurodiverse himself. And he started, and I remember, and I read the story that he started his company, Game Freak, at the age of 17, alongside with the character designer, Ken Sugimori. So therefore, I decided to beat his record. So therefore, I started my company, D-Animation Entertainment, at the age of 14. But who else helped me? Who helped me with the business side in Sadie and Patrick? Who inspired me to help me teach animation to students on the spectrum? It was Joey Travolta of Inclusion Films. Joey Travolta, how many of you have known of John Travolta? John Travolta, so Joey Travolta is the older brother of John, and he was the one who showed me the types and ropes about how you can just bring your passion, teach my students how to do animation, because we would love to include the animation wing of filmmaking. And therefore, as I talked along with Joey, he taught me why it's so important to teach animation. It's how I build social skills. It's a great way of building social skills. So as part of my teaching gig, and therefore that continued ever since, and then that moves on. And that's how animation, and then the rest is history. How about for you, Jake?
Animation has been really important for me. And it's kind of interesting when I think about it that obviously there's a passion to do things creative for yourself, but I think because I had such a hard time, actually I had a single mom, so we would move like almost to a new area every year, and I would have to start off with new friends, and on top of that having autism was very challenging. And so sometimes me wanting to get really good at something artistically was in a way being able to show, since I have a hard time communicating, to show my inside a little bit better, you know? And I've been really focused on that. And I left high school early and got my GED and went to the Art Institute to study media arts animation. And when I got burnt out there, 10 years ago, people were not as in love with anime as they are today. So I almost had to hide that about myself back there because it was kind of a fad. But I got burnt out and I shifted to music for those 6 years that I wasn't doing art anymore. And so there was a long period of time where I felt like I was just going to let go of that. And I liked music too, and that was another way to connect with people. You could go karaoke or perform. That's another way to show kind of your inner self and connect with people. And how that kind of shifted when I was 26, I hung out with my younger cousin who was in high school up in kind of San Francisco. And I was hanging out, and him and his friends were playing basketball, and they were doing Gurren Lagann and Naruto quotes. and I was like, oh shit, it's cool now, And it led me to think that maybe I could do a little bit of art and music. So my next goal, what I would love to do, is to create more like animated music videos, maybe guerrilla style or Disney style, whatever, in my own way. And I love making animated ideas and concepts based off of my friends and family. My cousin, for example, I told you, he's inspired a idea of kind of an anime-inspired concept where he's like a star surfer who's like surfing through the galaxy, you know. And then I have some friends I met at the gym where it's like a buddy cop, you know, kind of thing. My brother's a chef, so I have an idea of him being like a fisherman at sea, and he fights a swordfish, you know, and he has a sensei that's made out of vegetables. His name is Sensei Tomato, you know. And, you know, I have, you know, just a lot of different things. And this Too Smart to Be Trendy thing, my mom's an aspiring screenwriter, and so she hired Danny to help create the story, and I designed the characters. And it's about a girl who is a teenage girl who is in that really awkward place of feeling out of place, and her friends are looking at makeup and boys, and she's still in skateboards and hoodies and stuff like that. And so that main character I designed after my mom. When she was a child, you know, curly brown hair and stuff like that. And my mom was, turns out, also autistic and had a hard time connecting with people. And then I even got an opportunity to design the mother character of that based off of my own grandmother, who is deceased now. You know, and what was really cool about it, this is the last thing I'll add, is that last year Danny had a week-long workshop before Comic-Con, and Rosie O'Donnell and her daughter attended it, which was really cool. And when she was there, she was hanging out all week. She did a voice acting demo, just impromptu, you know, giving tips on voice acting. And when she was there, I felt kind of nervous. I was like, hey, do you think you could do the voice of our mother character? And so she agreed. So she's now one of the voice actors on this Too Smart to Be Trendy thing. So yeah, it's really cool. And I think a lot of my paralysis or blocks that I have, it's taken a long while, but I definitely feel like, you know, a lot of it has dissolved, and I feel ready for a lot of cool things. Yeah, so thank you guys.
Thank you so much for sharing. I think this is the perfect segue for the next question, which is, how has animation and art helped you create a community?
When I was really young, probably around 7 years old, which was like the peak of like, I'm born in 91, so I'm 33 now, so I was like, almost like the end of the 90s, going into the 2000s and all that. And that was like when 80s cartoons were being rerun and stuff, so like I was on the like end of like whatever the 80s had, right? So like OG Transformers, Street Sharks, you know, all these big names in like cartoons that like, you know, are ancient history now. But the thing is that for me, those things were so inspiring. What the wonderful thing was about it was that I was really motivated to, you know, be like my nerdy self because of those those cartoons, right? And one game, in fact, one of the games that I really appreciated, like very similar to how Matt is really into like card games like Pokemon. I really got into like Magic the Gathering when I was 7 years old. I went to a summer camp, and that's what one of my YouTube channels is about, actually. And that actually segued into what led me to what is now one of my major communities for me. So all my friends that I hang out with at game stores, like all around San Diego's, like big names like TC Rockets, Game Empire, Brute Force Games, those are all like, I know everyone there. So, but the reason why is because when I was 7 years old, I got into this card game, and then I started meeting everyone after I got out of college, and came back and started fostering and developing a community with all these different people. And now some of these people are some of my best friends in the entire world. And I see them on a weekly basis. That, I don't really, wouldn't say, like, I guess maybe me being on the autism spectrum maybe helped foster that, because, you know, for me, I've always been a very kind, caring, and compassionate person myself. And I've always been tried to be very respectful, very jovial, and positive towards everything I do in life. And my mom and dad always told me, treat others the same amount of respect and love as you would expect in return, and expect nothing more. And that's what I've always done. And I try to, no matter whether you're autistic or not, right? You should be treated as an equal because you're a human being that deserves to live. And that is the wonderful thing about the communities that I've developed with all my friends, whether they were a part of my gaming life or just a part of the people that I met throughout my life, right? They've all been treated as equals in my eyes, and I love them for that.
So, community is a little harder, a little trickier in these sets, because I look at the things that I was passionate about in life. Watching cartoons, reading comic books, playing with action figures, playing video games. These are very solitary activities, and it's nice to unwind with them. But as soon as I'm done reading a comic, I'm like, geez, I wish I had someone to talk about. So it's really, it's not always easy to create that community, because it's like, reading comics is so taboo, and everyone's going to have to do your nerd or something, which I am. But it's just I want to share my experiences with those things, and so it was kind of like difficult for me at first to find the community and be like, because as soon as I find I have something in common with someone, like, oh, you read Spider-Man comics too. I just want to just spill all that information out to someone and just do it. That's what autistics are. We want that connection of those shared interests. It's like finding someone who speaks your language all of a sudden after you've been a foreigner for so long. And another thing to find community with. I definitely think one of the things that actually helped me to forge friendships was, of course, that wonderful game called Pokemon that I discovered in October of 1998 after just Nintendo Power Mail-In. They give you a little VHS tape, like, where's Pokemon? Okay, I'll pick it up from my Game Boy. And I was like, oh cool, you can battle on link cables. My brother got one, and I got the other version of the game, and then my older brother beat me when we got home. And I got upset about that. And I was like, no, I ain't no slouch, I'm gonna get back at this. And then eventually that led me to the card game in January of 1999. But when you're collecting the cards, you actually want to learn how to play. Just like Austin said, it doesn't do you a lot of good to just do it by yourself, because collecting is a solitary activity. But I was kind of forced to go. Yeah, so I was forced to go to the Wizards of the Coast and the Mission Valley Mall to start going to the Pokemon League. And there I met a lot of my best friends who I'm still friends with 25 years later. And it just allowed me to continually get out there. And so I would continue going to Pokemon tournaments, not just at local events, but large scale ones like here at the convention center, and I go out to states. I've been to 36 states around the country just to play in Pokemon tournaments between 1999 and 2006. And then even kind of, I got one of the World Championships, came back to San Diego in 2009. I was like, oh, I haven't played in 3 years. Let me dust off this thing just to see some old friends. And ended up playing in the RSON Format World Championship Tournament after not playing for 3 years and went undefeated. And they're like, oh, you're a world champion now. What? Not the official champion, you still won a world championship tournament. Oh wow, geez, I did it 10 years before Ash did. Geez, yeah,
Games the charity turn to became Pokemon champion, so go Ash.
Yeah. Only took it 25 years. Okay. But it's those things, it's the getting you out of your comfort zone, because it's really, it is the hardest thing for us to get out of our comfort zone and to go up and talk to people. We prefer when people come up and talk to us, because it's like, oh, are they going to think I'm a weirdo if I go up to them and say it? Like, well, yes, they're going to think I'm a weirdo. That's just who I am. But I've accepted it by that. And so I like to, at this thing, I find it's a lot easier for me when I learned the best skill I've ever learned in my life in college is when I took a public speaking class. You see, right now, public speaking is the easiest thing in the world for me, because an audience, they can only say a couple of things, they can make noises, but it's not like I'm having to look you in the eyes and stuff like that. And you're like, oh wow, you can talk to an audience, you can just project, maybe you'll find one or two of those people in the group that want to connect with you afterwards. But it's a lot easier for me to talk to a crowd than it is to talk to an individual person. So that's just, one of my things. So, yeah, I know.
So, finding a neurodiverse tribe can be very tricky for people on the autism spectrum. As in my perspective, I did have a hard time looking for friends who were outside of my special ed classes. But then I remember in high school that there was an anime club and a Star Trek club when I was in high school at the time. I did find a couple of people who are outside of my special ed classes, and in addition to finding several of my parts of my neurodiverse tribe, it's also because I went to many different types of autism events, and also went to Joey Travolta's Inclusion Film Camp over these years. That is how I find a lot of they're not just only people who share the same interests, but also who is part of my company, Katie Nation. And that's how I first met Doug Keaton Bicknell. And that's how and also how I find not only it's my perspective about finding neurodiverse tribes, but also I help others find the tribe. And look at my students like Natalie and Peyton from Dean Nation. These have found they have a lot of common interests, which is mainly about animation. And that's how I found Jake. Jake and I became friends ever since we first met each other. We first met each other about the time when I premiered the short film Parker and Boo.
Yeah. So
That's
two
how you found
Comic-Cons
your-
ago.
yeah. 2 Comic-Cons ago, indeed. And it's really great to see how people on the spectrum get to know each other. And in addition to that, being on part of Love on the Spectrum, another thing that you can finding your tribe is through Love on the Spectrum. Matt and I first met on Love on the Spectrum, but then it didn't seem, even though it didn't seem to click, you may not find love, but you might find another friendship.
Yeah. Here's what happened. So, and of course, we find, we're just like, I just have to tell people a lot. When the show first came out, it was this weird, because they're like, oh, I can't believe this girl fumbled this guy. He was so nice and so funny and so, and people were attacking Danny on the show, and I had to jump in on Instagram and stuff. Guys, you didn't click. You ain't never been on a date with someone where you didn't click. That's part of life. You don't gotta be a jerk about it.
Haters are gonna hate.
And unfortunately, the weird thing was I'm surprised I wasn't getting any hate. I would look at all of the internet, on Reddit and Instagram and Twitter, where are my haters at? Why do people like me? It was so cringe on that show, and it's no, you're an internet heartthrob. No, I'm a dork. I swear. And it's
Having haters means you're doing something right.
True
I know,
story.
but I know haters. That means I'm doing everything wrong.
But you know what? A lot of haters are gonna hate, no matter what. A lot of what it means for a hater is that I have a message for all haters. If you are watching us and you still look at what I like but still comment, you're still a fan.
Yeah.
Thank you all, wonderful fans out there, especially.
Thank you.
Yeah, so for me, as I said, I kind of moved a lot, and having a single mom and everything like that, and even leaving high school early, I've been pretty much like a loner for a long period of time. And I'd say probably I'm 34 now, but I think around the age of 26, 27 was when, I was starting, because, I don't know, I don't want to go too long into any tangents, but I've had extreme masking in my life, where, as you know, every time you go to a new school, you have a new opportunity to kind of, okay, I'm going to try it different this time. And so I remember I had kind of the long blonde hair and stuff like that when I was in middle school, and I would get picked on, and I'd be the type where some kids would be talking about something, and I'd interject and wanted to add something, and there'd be that awkward silence, like, who's this guy? And so, but when I moved to a new school in my freshman year, I decided I was going to shave my head and be kind of because I had a bit of a high-pitched voice too, when I was younger, but kind of going into middle school, decided to be a bit more tough, and if anybody was going to pick on me, I'd get right up in their face, and that was kind of one of my big first experiences with just completely changing my whole identity. It was exhausting coming home and going back to who you really are, and then going back to school. It's and so there's been multiple times where I felt like I almost had to just completely shift, and it's been a challenge. But I'd say after a lot of experiences, after 26 and stuff, I started to learn how to balance it and kind of be myself, and it really helped when I, actually So it was kind of funny. My brothers saw Love on the Spectrum. My mom and my brother really liked the reality shows like, 90 Day Fiancé and Love on the Spectrum. And that's when my brother was kind of looking at and kind of looking over at me. And it's like, this seems like you, Jake. You seem like you must be autistic. I'm like, oh, come on. I have 6 ocarinas, all right? What's wrong with that? I just like things. And then when I got to meet Danny and just a lot of other things that kind of dawned on me, I understood what autism was. Part of the reason I rejected it, and my mom did when we were younger, is because, we didn't know about the spectrum. You think it's just, okay, if you're autistic, it's like Rain Man or something where you're just,
the Rain Man thing these days were considered to be the stereotype of like autism.
Yeah.
But nowadays people see the whole entire spectrum and people begin to accept us for who we are.
Yeah.
But then again, we still have to follow the rules
Right.
of society.
Yeah.
The character on Rain Man wasn't actually autistic either, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But that's just public perception of it, because it's one of the things after the show came out, because I had all these hundreds of people who knew me my whole life were like, oh, you don't look autistic. I'm like, what, am I supposed to look away? And it's like, not, I have to say, repeated line, yeah, not all of us are Rain Man, but it's just, just how we are. And I think that's kind of one of the things where they really, why people were so happy that they were on the show. It's like, oh wow, it's like, because so many of us, they're like, we have to mask, and it's like, well, I've never really been masking. I just am who I am. It's just like sometimes sometimes it's a tell, sometimes it's not. But I mean, my obsession with Pokemon and Spider-Man comics should be the dead giveaway there. So.
Yeah, and I even attempted my mask myself when I was in high school, trying to pretend that I blend in with lots of neurotypicals. But it's just really hard and tiring. I totally agree, Jake.
Yeah.
But
It's
I didn't think I
exhausting.
needed to have to mask too much, but then again, we all have to follow what is called the hidden curriculum, which means social cues that are considered to be the hidden rules that we on the spectrum have to focus and navigate, not just in schools and education, but also in the workforce.
Yeah. So yeah, there was some certain time in my life where I kind of learned how to, because a lot of times communication can be hard because you're filtering like really hard and you're afraid of what you might say, if it'll turn other people off towards you. And at some point I kind of learned how to allow that just flow of consciousness. So even if I start losing my words, I'm just kind of allowing it to just flow and find my way as I speak. But yeah, I go into the gym, you make some friends at the gym, and then, you start to have a group, and then I made some friends when I was doing music, and I think at some point, it's more noticeable that you're autistic when you have only one special interest. But because I shifted to, animation, to then music, and then to, fitness and other stuff too, now, maybe it's a little easier to fit in with everybody else. But it's been really good, especially since I've connected with Danny, because I meet other people that are very similar to myself, and I've learned to be more playful. I'm definitely a lot more happy now. And what's even great, Danny introduced me to somebody, another friend of hers that's a music community.
Pete and Bicknell is really talented in music.
Yeah. And there's this Flutie Foundation that is something they introduced me to.
Which you won the other contest, and you're so excited about you're going to go head off to Massachusetts, right?
Yeah. So there was a friend of hers that they introduced me to. They formed an online contest to perform at this concert that they're going to have in Massachusetts. So that's another community. So I have my animation community, and now I have this music community of autistic individuals.
Well, you get the best of both worlds, Jake.
Yeah.
And it is like people like us are definitely shaped by our interests in what we do, and a lot of times it's difficult for those on the spectrum to get into new things, not for fear of, well, what if we don't like it? No, but what if we do like it. Because let me tell you, it's very taxing to become like, the biggest fan of everything and anything. Because like, I do not go soft on stuff. I go hard on anything I do. Anyone who's ever seen my comic collection or like, how I do comic conventions or something, it's because I like refuse to be anything other than the best. Because my, it's how I am. I like to improve things. I like to make things better. And I'm a continual improver. And I know I should take some of that and take some of my own advice and go to the gym more often and stuff like that. Although if I did become the old gym rat and just get super swole, I mean, it's like, okay.
Well, you know what, Matt, you don't necessarily achieve anything, but the most important thing is do your best as you can, as for many of you who are listening in the audience, so do as best as you can, as much as possible, never fear failure, and most importantly, never stop learning.
Never give up.
Perfectly into my next question, which Danny already started answering, is what advice would you guys give to somebody who's an aspiring artist or animator?
That's a very emotional question for me, because ever since I was very young, I knew what I wanted to do, and I'm just gonna let you know, just based on the majority of people I met, that's not very common with people. I've talked to a lot of my friends, and I've even talked to a lot of my classmates growing up, and I'm like, so what do you want to do when you get out of here? And they're like, I haven't figured it out yet. And I never had that issue. I knew what I wanted to do. I knew I wanted to be an artist. I knew I wanted to succeed as an artist. I wanted to create art, make people smile, bring happiness to others, and that was my goal as an artist, was to make the world happy, to make the world smile with my art, right? And my only really good advice I can give is you need to make a decision. You gotta stick by that decision, and you gotta be committed, and you gotta want it. If you don't want what you want, whatever that may be, that's gonna be very hard for you to enjoy your career. I still do art because I love it so much, and I love it to see what it does for everyone, right? To see the effect it has on the world, right? That's the beauty in it, how it motivates and inspires people. And so many people have such difficulty with that, and that's what I would encourage every one of you to do if you want to pursue whatever you want to pursue, right? Just do what you love and love what you do every single day, and never stop doing it till the day you die, and just enjoy every moment and cherish it, because that's what's important.
My advice is definitely just like what Austin said, continue to do what you do. For those who are creators, just put your work out there, but continue to improve upon your work and be adaptable with your work. And not all work is going to be paid for. And sometimes these things, or most of the time, are going to be passion projects. And be mindful of the fact that life is going to get in the way of your passion projects. Once again, it's like a thing with me. It's like I have had to put my own passion projects on the side because I'm spending all my time working on day jobs and stuff like that. And be willing to change and be willing to adapt. Like, once upon a time, it's like, okay, cool, I've achieved my goal of working on Spider-Man trading cards, and this is so cool. But in the back of my mind, I'm like, it's like, I'm kind of itching for what's next? What's the next chapter in my life? So continue to advance and evolve, we're coming back to these Pokemon jokes again and again and again. But and don't be afraid to lean upon your community. Be open to collaborations, and always take a chance, and you'll be glad you did. I never declined any chance and any opportunities, even some that were kind of like, would you believe I actually didn't even want to be on Love on the Spectrum at first? I had to really, really be pushed into it. I'm like, okay, fine. They're like, oh, she's a really cute girl. She really likes cartoons. We really want to see if we can give her a chance with Comic Book Boy. I'm like, okay, fine, I'll give it a chance. And now I'm getting recognized on the street, and people having public freakouts. I'm like, no, chill. I said I'm not into celebrity worship on the show. Here's a cure for celebrity worship. It's called friendship.
Friendship is
I'm-
the best medicine.
Yeah, my name is Matt Duffer. What's yours? Cool. Now you don't gotta treat me like a celebrity. I'm a human being.
Aw. So I love your advice that you brought with that. Really inspirational. My advice is for any aspiring artists, especially for those who are neurodiverse, remember that there is no age limit no matter what. You could start now, you could definitely, there is times that you can start now, no matter walks of life you live in. Number two is, I have is, it's okay to ask for help. For me, Sandy and Patrick, they are the ones that helped me get my animation company started. Remember, nobody works alone. Third, remember to get out of your comfort zone because nobody's gonna push yourself because nobody's gonna do it for you. It's okay to get somebody, it's okay to get some helping hand, but don't be dependent, don't just be interdependent with one another. That's the important key to lead to success in life is interdependence. And also, don't be afraid of failure because everybody fails at one time or another because whenever it's part of the learning curve, whenever, no matter how dreadful failure may be, you just have to keep moving forward. It's always good to gain perseverance and get a strong, tough shell with you. And another advice I have here is be grateful for what you already have and you get to try a lot of new things. That means don't compare it to yourself to anybody. And remember, another thing is be out there, go to network with lots of people. It's not just about what you know, it's who you know. I went to many events like the City of Hollywood, Comic-Con is one of them, and many different types of autism events and public speaking engagements and teaching animation. And remember, don't listen to the naysayers. If anybody says you cannot do this or you cannot do that, just look straight in the eyes. Not the eyes exactly.
Usually you put a forehand eye contact makes us uncomfortable.
Yeah, eye contact makes something. Not everybody's going to be comfortable with eye contact. Remember, you just have to say, just look straight at them and say, yes, I can and I will, just watch me. And remember, if you can see it, you can be it.
Yep.
So yeah, one of the things that helped me when I was about 17, my mom really got into The Secret and Abraham Hicks and all that stuff.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that kind of helped me kind of continue to just be optimistic. There's that idea that it's like there's the positive side of the stick and the negative side of the stick, and just continue to lean toward things being better and being optimistic. And that was one thing that's kind of helped me, I think, even through bad times, and just to continue to move forward. And so I think that that's really good. And you know, a lot of times people are talking about it's not, you know, how good you are, it's about who you know, and they feel bitter about that. But you know, I kind of look at it in a bit of a different way. It's like, you know, if you're friendly, if you love people and stuff, there's a lot of times people want to help you out. And so one of the classic things that I probably should make a t-shirt out of, people, you know, I'm controversial when it comes to love on the spectrum. A lot of people, there's some people that understood, you know, my perspective, and then there's other people that don't like me and they kind of felt like, you know, oh, why do you? So a lot of times, every time you see me with Dan, he says, why is Jake there? You know, like, what is he doing there? You know?
Haters are gonna hate.
Yeah, and so anyways, but the thing is that it's, you know, a lot of times if you're, you know, nice person, people naturally want to help you out. And so there's a lot of different times that, you know, they go out of their way to invite me to things that they think will be good for me, you know? And so, so there's that. It's not always about what you do. Oftentimes it's about, like, I guess the energy you bring and how you feel when you're doing it. Everybody's so focused on, like, okay, so how did Kobe Bryant become a success? It was this, okay, if I follow these exactly. No, there's like an energy aspect to it too that's really important. So there's that, and I think being playful and appreciative of life is also really important. So I think it's not so much about how much hard effort you do. There's a lot of times where maybe an opportunity comes and it's once in a lifetime, even though you don't feel good about it, you ignore that and you go for it anyways, and then it turned out to be a really bad thing that you shouldn't have done. So it's important to listen to your inner guidance and sometimes filter out like what is a good thing to follow and what is not a good thing. And so yeah, it's important to be in tune with that, and of course be appreciative. Like, why be stressed out about the future, ashamed of something in the past? Like, you just, you know, especially if you've had 3 meals today and you have a place to sleep and stuff. So yeah, I think it's just being you know, very appreciative of life and being more playful and being friendly and stuff, and then the path opens for you, you know. So I would recommend that.
I just want to chime in really quickly because I really felt what you said. Long story short, ever since I got out of college, I struggled with, so I'm not only autistic, I have ADHD and I also have depression, right? So I've had the feelings of feeling a failure, I've had the feelings of being sad, struggling, figuring out what I was gonna, you know, how I was gonna get my entire career and my jobs going, right? And you know, one of the things that I really longed for when I was, you know, out of college is, you know, I wanted companionship. But the problem is that since, you know, I was a gamer and I was also, you know, very like isolated just based on like how my brain worked at the time, right? It took me a while to grow, to get out of that shell so that I could feel like that I was valid in like a relationship when I was like trying to find somebody. And you know, it wasn't until 2019 when I met my lovely wife Annie that I actually realized that, you know, you can go outside, you can talk to people, you can make that connection with people, and you can feel valid. And if I'm gonna give any really big advice in regards to that, just be patient and have faith in yourself and never give up. Because if you do, you're going to feel like a failure the rest of your life. You need to push that feeling aside and have confidence in yourself. That's what has helped me most as an artist and as a developing person, and then like what I am today.
We have unfortunately come to time, but I would love for us to take a group photo. So will you guys be okay with that?
Oh, yes.
Let's do it? Okay, perfect.
Pictures